All right, Chris Chavez, Eric Jenkins, live in Paris, and we're joined by the Golden Boy, the Olympic champion in the 1500 meters, Cole Hocker. Has that settled in yet? I know you're being bopped around to media and doing all this stuff, but the fact that you are the Olympic champion.
Yeah, definitely has not set in. I spent 5 hours through interviews yesterday kind of talking about it and thinking about it, but I still feels like it's not real, even though this has been the dream, but still feels like it is still a dream.
You actually blacked out, right? In the final 100 meters, you asked the people in the mix zone when they asked you about going in on the inside, and you're like, oh, it opened up. So what do you remember?
Yeah, I was just telling my buddies about that too, because that was a funny part of the interviews where, I think Galt asked me, he's like, how did you know the inside would open up? And I was like, well, it opened up and then he closed it down. And so I kind of had to find a new game plan. And in my head, I think I went around Ingebrigtsen on the outside, which is just crazy to me. And obviously I've watched the replay now and I can kind of see where I made the decision. I start to almost make the decision to go outside. And then I'm like, oh wait, he opened it up again. But yeah, I somehow did kind of black out.
To us, that's the craziest part, I think, about the final 100 meters is yes, you had the fastest split for the final 100, which was 11 flat. And then, but on top of that, there was, you hit the brakes.
It was such an insane last 100 because you came off, I can't remember where it was, whether it was 120, 100 meters, you ran right up on Jakob, kind of put the hand out, had to really hit the brakes. But then to be able to stay composed and you just trusted that eventually it's going to open up. We were going nuts in the stands. You're kind of known for you're a rail guy.
Yeah.
It paid off huge this time.
I think, I feel like I've done that kind of strategy a bunch of times. And that's why I think, I've just been saying, the last 100 meters was instinct. It was no real decision in my head, but it was just go where I thought was smart. But I think that's kind of been the change of my strategy, that I've had to just get fitter in order to do it. But where, yes, I found the rail in the last 200, and I think that helped a lot because, with 200 to go, we started really picking it up, and I was able to find the rail, and I'm glad I wasn't on the outside fighting at that point. But with kind of my newfound fitness of the past year, I can kind of float around the outside of lane one and make these moves. And that was pretty much what that whole race felt like, where I was running as close to the rail as I could, but I wasn't stuck on the rail. And oftentimes in the past, I've been stuck on the rail and, people come around and I'm like, oh, I still have a good kick, but you can't do that when people are running 3:30. And I found that out the hard way in the past few championships. And so that's, definitely watching the replay, I've found how comfortable I was able to stay while not being right on the rail.
All right, so what was the race plan coming into it, and was it executed to a T, or did you have to alter things as it went along?
I think it was as close to perfect as I could get, besides kind of the last 120 where, I had to stop my momentum, where that could be a devastating move. But the race plan was, I think everyone in the field thought Jakob's going to take this, as I think that gives him the best chance at winning the race, and Kerr to follow, everyone thinks their race plan suits them best. So it just made sense. And for that race, I was prepared. Pretty much did not want to let any gaps happen. And immediately, sometimes Jakob waits till 200 to go to the front. And this one I think was kind of different, where he went from the gun. 100 meters in, he was in the front, which isn't always the case. And I kind of floated around the back, waiting to settle a bit. But immediately a gap opened up, and I was just like, I have to close that, because that front group I could just tell was rolling and ready to go with whatever. And so, I just had to make the decision to close any gap. And I'm just so happy on each gap that I closed down. Again, watching the replay, I'm just I thank God I did that, because in the past I could see myself kind of, shying away from that because I want to save something big for the end. But I just kind of tested myself and put myself in an uncomfortable position and wanted to be, back to your question, the race plan was be connected with 200 to go. That was the big takeaway, which is easier said than done, but that's what I did.
There's been like this event is probably one of the most hyped up of the games. It's been such a crazy build up. Everyone's been talking about Jakob and Josh, but you've said publicly you're like I can win a gold medal. What point, like when was it in the year when you were like, this isn't just like a dream or like some long shot, like I can do this?
I think it started back in Budapest, honestly. I said that after USA's last year, I had like a very short build up to that championship, and I thought, I have another month to kind of gain fitness, which I did. But I couldn't make up for the 3 months in the year that I lost, essentially. And so how that race played out, where I was connected until 200 to go, I think a lot more guys were, because it wasn't as fast as this previous race. But after that race, I was like, I saw Kerr do it, and I was like, oh, I can actually do this. I think that's when I actually started believing it, because I knew where my fitness was. I got to 330 with not an ideal buildup at all, and beating half the field at a global final still, and that's where it started. And then, of course, this whole buildup has to go perfect, and it was just every race seemed like along the way this year was a stepping stone closer to that, like starting back even to like Millrose, where I ran a 2 mile that, like a time that I thought was out of my reach before this year. And then the races kept going. 5K, like sub 13 was the big goal this year. And I did that. And so I knew that was like way fitter than I was last year. And it was at that point where I was like, a medal is like definitely within my reach. And I think like if I'm in medal contention, I'm going to be in gold medal contention. And that part was telling myself again and again, I forced myself to say it out loud, like a lot of days, just because.
To yourself?
Yeah. Because it's funny. It's hard to say that. Even when I'm completely by myself, it's hard to get myself to say it. But, I made myself say it. I made myself write it down because I knew my subconscious would keep working on it. And I think there's really a lot of value to that. But yeah, just throughout the season, it got more and more realistic. And then I kept checking the boxes until I was in the Olympic final, and that was it. That was the final box to check, and I told myself that I'd done everything so far in the build-up to have a good result, and there's really nothing more I could have done this year. And so whatever the result was going to be I kind of told myself, you're going to be content with that because I've done everything, and luckily it was the greatest achievement I could have got.
So the moments before the race, feelings of just total satisfaction, or was there nerves and fear, beforehand, or how did you feel in that call room?
Yeah, I was extremely nervous. Like that hasn't gone away at all. It seems like every race this year been so nervous, and yeah, also afraid. Like I think I've tried to kind of think through why do I get nervous? Why do I get afraid? And a lot of it just comes back to I'm afraid of how I'm going to feel after the race and how I'm going to process this internally. And I found that that's my biggest fear when I'm lining up and when I'm getting ready, just self-disappointment, honestly. And I was telling myself the days prior, be content with whatever happens, because I did set myself up for the best, but there's no feeling like I heard you talk about this the other day of in the call room at a major championship. Like there's the energy in there is, almost like tangible, and like everyone is nervous. It's funny kind of to see and think back now, like all these guys that are just monsters on the track everyone's kind of presenting as confident, and you can see it, but at the same time you can tell everyone's kind of like shitting bricks. And they know it's about to go down, and everyone's kind of playing that same mental game with themselves.
What's going through your head when you see the splits? 54 for the first lap, for first 400, and then after that 151 through 800. Were you cognizant of that actually taking place in the race, and what's your internal monologue at that point?
So I think I saw 2 splits. I saw 54 because I think I was kind of on the rail at that point, and not completely in the pack, and I saw 54, and I couldn't think what pace is this actually, but I knew that was extremely fast. And then I think we came around, and then on the next like home straightaway, I felt it ease up a bit, and I told myself like, okay, they settled down a bit, like get your composure back. And that's exactly what I did. And I connected myself. I did not want 1 inch of separation between whatever guy was in front of me, and I was just keeping an eye on the guys in front of them. And then I guess I don't even remember the split, but I remember looking at the clock with a lap to go, and it didn't really mean anything to me, but I was like, I know we're rolling right now. Yeah.
You're now a 2-time Olympian. I remember the season you had in 2021 before Tokyo. You're just on fire every single race, cleaning up. What's the biggest difference between, the besides that gold medal, the athlete that Cole Hocker is today and 4 years ago?
I think that year was just riding momentum, which a lot of good seasons are. I've definitely had a lot of momentum going into this, but it's almost impossible to match the momentum of a successful NCAA season. Yeah. And everything gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It goes from indoor to outdoor, then to the U.S. trials. And everything was just going so well. And that's why it's like you don't count out the college guys ever at like USA champs. But now on like a pro build-up, it's a race here, wait a month, big race here, big month of training, another big race. And you build momentum, but at a different rate. And outside of how much fitness I've built, I'd say like the big difference is just the way I approach these races mentally. And it's just like I really have to compartmentalize each race. And I remember after the 5K in LA, I ran a really good time, but like I got cooked by that field, which was a ridiculous field. And like I hate losing, and especially I got like 10th or 11th in that. And I remember like cooling down and just being like, it's like relax, like this is like a step towards like a greater goal. And even though it was like a really good race, but just being able to compartmentalize these races and have the goal of the big race in the future, but race one at a time. Yeah.
The reaction from your dad in the stands is going absolutely viral. It's awesome. What was that sort of like afterwards when you reunited with your family? And then, of course, I guess, like, what were your thoughts when you saw the clip?
Yeah, I was obviously cracking up when I saw that clip, and he's proud of it.
It's a good clip.
Yeah, I think it's funny. He had his binoculars, and he was dialed in, and I think he was giving me a breakdown. He's like, I looked through them, and then I was like, oh, he's podium. He's on the podium. And then he saw I was getting gold and lost his mind. And he's been he's like, Cole, how do I check what the view count is? I think there's a few videos.
Cole, I think I'm going viral. I need you to double check that.
But we're loving that.
And then there's the photo of Coach Ben Thomas in the stands, kind of hands on his head, just processing that moment. He's been there since the start of this journey, the last couple of years for you. Regrouping with him, and what was that, first kind of reuniting like?
Yeah, I that's one person I haven't got enough FaceTime with after the race. I saw him pretty soon after when I was under the stadium before the medal ceremony, which is really special. But he's similar to me, where a lot of it's like processed internally and doesn't get too animated. And I think that picture kind of encapsulates that well, where he's in this stadium going crazy, but he's like alone with his thoughts. And I feel like I'm similar to that in a lot of ways. But going into this Olympics and throughout the rounds, I could tell his excitement was there. And that gives me a lot of confidence because, again, you don't get much out of him, but after the semi, he was clapping his hands already, and he was fired up. And we were walking into the stadium before the final, and one of the last things he said, he's like, I'm not even nervous, I'm just excited. He's like, I think that's a good sign because, I'm just excited, and that gave me like so much confidence.
The team momentum at the Team USA, high performance center must be just kind of next level right now. Obviously feeding off of, Noah Lyles' win, Grant's medal. Grant came through the mix zone yesterday after the 5K, and he spoke to that a little bit. He's like, I'm just trying to be like Cole. Like, that's is that a palpable feeling that is happening with Team USA right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny because I was like, I want to be like Grant. Like, that was ridiculous. Yeah, like I think it's always insane, and USA is always dominant in track and field, but this year is different with middle distance and distance really holding up their end of it. It's just been like, the 10K is kind of ridiculous if an American gets a medal. That was done. The 1500, Centro did it, and there's been Leo Manzano and Legat, obviously, and getting medals, but it's still few and far between, and it's an event that's dominated by a lot of other countries. And so, yeah, me and Yard we did like a lot of interviews together yesterday, and we're just both like so proud of obviously not only doing it for ourselves, but for USA, and then like Kenneth Rooks as well. It's just like these things that on paper should not be happening, like are happening, and it seems like that energy is, it's in the air, and like I feel like it's going to continue.
The what's next sort of element to this is like obviously the storyline has been like the rivalry with Josh and Jakob. Like, as one of the key players in this event, like what do you think this does to the storyline? I know it's for like the media to concoct and to mold, but I guess where do you insert yourself in like all of this and your hope, I guess, for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think that's going to be probably one of the biggest adjustments is a lot of the external factors, which I'm like preparing for mentally. And, it's going to be a different battle. And, but I'm reminding myself that every time I'd see these things hyped up, I'd be like, mention me. Like, I saw myself as that. I obviously didn't really have those kind of results to put me in that, but yeah, I wanted to be mentioned in that, and I wanted to be, put in Nike ads and this stuff. And I'm like put me on that. Like I know what level I'm at, but it takes a performance to really make everyone else believe. And so I think I did that, and I'm excited and, nervous for, what's to come next, because I'm like, how does a Olympic gold medalist operate after this? And there's only a few people that can really give me advice for that, and I'm trying to figure that out.
I'm sure Centro will take a call or something like that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Have any former Ducks or anyone reached out, I guess, since then? That's been cool.
Centro commented on my photo with a pretty cool comment on Instagram.
And now you get a floor dedicated to you in the tower. Is that true?
So I don't know. They have one. They have the floor.
Build a new tower.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It says like next, and I don't know if it's a thing where they like just keep it as next, because there could be a bunch more. Because I think there's only one more floor that can be named. So I don't know. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
But I think probably I have gotten some messages. I've
your phone must be crazy.
I've started to respond, but it's daunting. It's a daunting task, but I want to see it all, because all these stories, and they're only 24 hours. I'm like, I want to see those too before they expire. So yeah, I'm sure I've missed some. Yeah.
What's going so right over with Coach Thomas and your group? It's so interesting. This is a sport where a lot of the training in these groups, it's very similar. It's people are more similar than different. And Coach Thomas, especially, is a guy that seems like from the outside really goes his own way.
Yeah, we noted that. It was sort of like the trendy thing has been double threshold, and like that caught on for a bit, but then sort of like your guys' training model might be like the new fad.
Yeah, I think he's like a mad scientist kind of when it comes to that. And like, I think like say he stopped coaching me, I think I could roughly coach myself in the same way, but it's like so intricate in a sense where he's still very vital to my training. And didn't miss a practice this entire year, which was just so huge, especially getting a new job at a new school. But yeah, I think it's a testament to just like sticking to what you believe in. And I could tell his belief in his training, and that was kind of contagious in me. And I was like, if you have this much belief in it, then I do too. And the results continue to, affirm that belief. But I think, a lot of coaches at a lot of levels have been like, oh, let's do this. Let's jump to double threshold. And of course there's science to back that up and all this stuff. And let's jump around here. But if you truly believe in your training, you're going to stick with it. And that's what we did. And yeah, I'm glad we did.
All right, we'll wrap this up to let you head off to this party that they have in store for you. But Cole, congratulations, and this is just a truly historic moment, and hope you get to really celebrate and revel in it over the next, couple months, to come.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys very much.